Hello again. I am so excited to be back here with you. This week's prayer from Jared Patrick Boyd's Imaginative Prayer book is one of my absolute favorites. And it really ties into our theme from this week, that God fills us up so that we can share His love with others. Let's go ahead and jump right in, shall we? First, let's close our eyes and take a few deep breaths together. Father God, I pray that you just would open our eyes and our ears and our minds, release our imaginations to hear and see and experience exactly what you want us to this morning. Let us be sensitive to your Spirit. All right. Now, imagine with me that you are living in a part of the world that doesn't have very much water to drink. Imagine that every day you only get one small cup of water to drink. You are often thirsty. Imagine sitting outside in the hot sun, wanting so badly to have a drink of water. Do you know that there are places in the world where there is not very much water to drink? There are places all over the world where people simply don't have enough water. The water in the rivers and the streams is too dirty to drink, or the rivers and streams are all dried up. Imagine that you live in one of these places. Imagine that you are very thirsty. Now imagine that each day you walk with a bucket for an hour just to get water for your family, your mother and father and brothers and sisters. Also, take a bucket and walk an hour to fetch water for your household. With this water, you have to do all of your cooking and bathing and drinking. Imagine what it would be like to walk every day to fetch just the littlest bit of water. As you walk home with your bucket of water, you notice that some of your neighbors aren't able to gather enough water for their family. Actually, there are quite a few families in your neighborhood who don't even have buckets for gathering water. Some families, mom and dad, are both sick, and the children are too little to carry heavy buckets. Imagine that you have set your bucket of water down at your home, and your family begins to cook dinner and drink water and wash their hands. The water is running low. So you decide to take one more trip to the place where you gather water, which is an hour's walk away. Imagine walking home with a heavy bucket of water. On your way home, you see a family in their home with no water at all. What does it feel like to see this family? What do you want to do? Imagine that you make the choice to give your bucket of water to this family. It's heavy in your hands, but as you set it down on their front porch, and as you watch them come to the water and drink it, you know you've done something good. You've done something loving. Imagine now that you go back home and see that all the buckets of water are filled. There are 5 buckets of water at your house, and they're filled right up to the very top. But nobody knows how they were filled. In fact, they're not just full, they're overflowing. Water is spilling out the top of the buckets and onto the ground. What do you want to do with the water? Imagine that the other families in your neighborhood come to mind. You remember that there are so many families who need water. And imagine that you take some of that water from your home, one bucket at a time, to some of the families around you. Imagine taking a bucket of water from your home and pouring it into the bucket at your neighbor's home. You come back to your home with an empty bucket, and you set that one down and you grab another full bucket to take to another family. And you pour this water into a bucket of a house next to you. And again, you return home with another empty bucket. You set it down, you grab a third bucket of water, and you take it to your neighbor down the street who hasn't been able to get water from quite some time. What does it feel like to be able to give away so much? What is it like to be able to give something away to love people? Imagine now that you come back to your house with your empty bucket and you know that you have just one bucket left. And somebody comes to mind that needs that bucket of water. As you drop off your empty bucket, you notice that all your buckets are full again. Imagine it. Every single one is completely full. Even the bucket you just brought back empty. The one you set down on the ground is full. They aren't just full, they're overflowing. Something's happening here that you can't explain. You live in a place where water is hard to come by. And yet, every time you empty a bucket, somehow it gets filled back up. Imagine that you take another full bucket of water to someone who's thirsty. What is it like knowing that you are giving because you have so much to give away? That every time you give away, every time you empty a bucket, more water comes. This is how we love. We love because we're overflowing with God's love for us. We love because we are so full. Imagine right now being filled with the love of God. Hold out your hands in front of you and receive God's love. Let it fill you up. Imagine how exciting it would be to realize that every time you give away love that God gives you, just like the water in our story, when you return to Him, He fills you back up to overflowing. Let God's love fill you up like an empty bucket. Feel it pouring over and overflowing. Who will you share it with next? You are loved, my friends. May the abundant love of our amazing God fill you up each time you go to Him this week. And may you have plenty of opportunities to share it with others.